Good evening, Mr. Bond fans, and welcome once again. Today I'm going to be talking about a very specific rumour that has gained traction over the past few months. That rumour specifically being that Rami Malek is going to be playing Dr. No in the upcoming Bond film No Time to Die. I'm talking about this now as Empire magazine published an article revealing that Rami Malek's character is going to be called Safin, and then there's some quotes from Barbara Broccoli who describes the character as a supervillain who gets under Bond's skin and is a real nasty piece of work, which sounds great. I really hope he's a sadistic, twisted baddie for Bond to go up against, but even though now we know the villain's name, is there a chance that there will be a similar Blofeld-like reveal in No Time to Die, and that Safin is in fact Dr. Julius Safin, or Dr. Safin No? So I think this rumour kind of started based on two things. Number one being that we haven't really had much detail on Rami Malek's villain character from any official source connected with the film, so the character is very much an enigma still at the moment, and then also pair that with when the film's title was announced, obviously No Time to Die, people were making the observation, like, you know, just stick a comma in that and it's, you know, a Bond making a statement to a villain, perhaps. So I guess to lay all my cards out on the table, I do not think that this rumour is going to be true in any way. I think it's, you know, people reading in and speculating, which is all good and everything, but I think it does just kind of bring up a broader question of, like, if Rami Malek was playing Dr. No, is that something anyone wants? Do you want to see Bond villains reimagined in this current era? I think that generally Bond villains fit into one of three categories. The first and most prominent, I think, is infinitely rich industrialist / public figure, usually someone who, when suggested might be a villain, prompts M or the Minister of Defense to say something along the lines of, "But he's a respected figure who has tea with the Queen, how could he possibly be a villain?" And this type of villain are often not a physical threat for Bond and rely on hench people to do their dirty work. The second is a leader or member of a villainous organisation. Usually Spectre and money is often the main driving force, as well as a fear of punishment from their superiors, often Blofeld. And the third, and perhaps the most nebulous, is the dark side of Bond villain. Usually someone who looks similar to Bond or who has a similar past and is often more of a physical threat in and of themselves than the usual Bond villain, and their motives often tied up with a certain fascination of Bond himself and a desire to prove in some way that they are better than him. I think all Bond villains fall into one of these three groups, and often once you're in one of those groups, the broad strokes and motivations are very similar. A lot of individualism comes from the actors casting the parts and their particular quirks. So there's really hardly any difference in terms of motives, I think, between Drax and Stromberg, but the villains still manage to have their own identities. As such, I don't really see the need to revisit past incarnations of villains because their names don't matter all that much to a general audience. Blofeld's big name reveal in Spectre is a good highlight of just how kind of meaningless it is. I mean, would Christoph Waltz's villain have been any worse for just being Franz Oberhauser? I don't think so. I mean, the audience reaction in my screening when I saw Spectre on opening day was just like at the big reveal of, you know, "My name is Blofeld," was just some muttering. I could hear some like, "Who?" and "What?" coming from people in the audience because it just doesn't mean anything to a broader audience. A Bond film is not going to be any better or worse for giving a villain the same name as a villain from 60 years ago, so what's the point? I think there's really only one justification for if you wanted to reboot or reimagine one of those classic villains, and that would be because you want to go back to Ian Fleming. And for Drax, for example, Drax in the film Moonraker is completely different to the Drax in the Ian Fleming book, so I think that, you know, there's some justification there because you want to do a faithful adaptation of that. With Dr. No, I think we've already had a very faithful adaptation of him in one of the films in the series, so I don't really know how you improve on that, or, you know, because obviously you don't just want to replicate that same performance, but at the same time, if you're going to do something new, then why not just make it a new character? So am I just being a bit of a stick in the mud? Like, if you want Rami Malek to play Dr. No, please do let me know in the comment section below, because I would love to hear, or indeed if you want, like, do you want Goldfinger to come back? Do you want, you know, Rosa Klebb, or Largo, or any of those other villains? Like, would you like to see them reimagined, rebooted in this current era? Please do let me know in the comment section below, because I would be really interested to hear more thoughts and perspectives on this particular point. In the meantime, of course, please do head over onto my Facebook and Twitter pages. I'm quite active on Twitter these days. I post a lot of Bond thoughts and share some news and things that I find funny on there. So if you have Twitter, please do follow me on there. And, if you would like to go one step further and really support this channel, you can head over into my Patreon page. And you can always click the subscribe button as well. That's always lovely. Until next time, Bond fans, so long for now.